What a lovely terpene profile. Welcome back to the high class. In the last couple of lessons, we introduced cannabis and talked briefly about the different ways of consuming it. Now it's time to dive a little bit deeper and expand our knowledge on cannabis. Today's lesson is going to be about the entourage effect. What is the entourage effect? In 1998, two Egyptian professors, Raphael Mechoulam and Shimon ben Shabbat, first used the term entourage effect in their paper talking about the benefits of botanical synergy. What they wrote was, the endocannabinoid system demonstrated an entourage effect in which a variety of inactive metabolites and closely related molecules increase the activity of the endogenous cannabinoids, anandamide and 2-arachidinyl glycerol. End quote. What they were saying is that the beneficial activity of the endocannabinoid system was increased by inactive metabolites and closely related molecules. We're going to talk about those. Let's make this make sense. An entourage is a group of supporting characters that surround the main character. If you think about an entourage, you think about a famous person walking down the street. If they're all by themselves, they might draw attention, but not a whole lot. Not as much attention as they will if they're surrounded by paparazzi and their entourage of friends. It draws a lot more attention. So together, they have a larger effect than alone. That's the entourage effect. I prefer the term ensemble effect because to me they work together like a symphony. THC would be the conductor, and the terpenoids and flavonoids and the other inactive metabolites would be all of the players working together to create symphonies. First of all, cannabinoids and terpenoids are secondary metabolites. Secondary metabolites are compounds that are made by plants that aren't a part of the plant's growth or reproduction. Typically, they're formed to either repel predators, attract pollinators, or as the plant's immune system or self-defense system. The cannabis plant produces hundreds of secondary metabolites. Like 125 different cannabinoids have been identified and around 400 different terpenoids. THC and CBD are just the most abundant of the cannabinoids found, and for this lesson, we'll talk about the 7 most common terpenoids. There are 2 types of cannabinoids: phytocannabinoids, which are made by plants, and endocannabinoids, which are made by our bodies. They're actually synthesized on demand. Interesting fact, even if you've never tried cannabis, your body will still synthesize endogenous cannabinoids when it needs it. THC and CBD are phytocannabinoids, and they have an effect on the endocannabinoid system. CBN and CBD were first discovered in 1940, and in 1942, THC was first extracted from the cannabis plant. Now, there wasn't a lot of research for a couple of years after that. In the 60s and 70s, most of the research that they did was focused on the psychoactive effects of the plant and not really on its medical benefits. It wasn't until between 1990 and 1993 that the first endogenous cannabinoid receptors, CB1 and CB2, were discovered. And a few years later, in 1997, the endogenous cannabinoids, anandamide and 2-arachidinyl glycerol, were discovered. Now, anandamide and arachidinyl glycerol are endocannabinoids or endogenous cannabinoids, and they are synthesized by our bodies on demand. They help to regulate things through the stimulation of the CB1 and CB2 receptors, like the immune response, or also nerve conduction and the timing and regulation of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. Now, terpenes are the essential oils of the plant. and they are responsible for the different ways that it smells and also the unique effects of each different strain. In fact, the unique balance and blend of the different terpenoids are what make each different strain feel, smell, and taste the different ways that they do. Each of these terpenes has a unique effect on our body, but none of them are unique to cannabis. They can be found in a lot of other botanical places. Phytocannabinoids, THC and CBD, are the closely related molecules that the two Egyptian professors mentioned before, and the terpenoids would be the inactive metabolites. The reason that terpenoids are considered inactive metabolites is because, with the exception of beta-caryophyllene, they have no effect on the endogenous cannabinoid system. Each of these terpenes does have a measurable effect on the body. Let's get a little bit deeper into the 7 most common terpenoids. THC is going to be the same in an indica strain and a sativa strain. What makes each strain feel different are the terpenoids and the blend of terpenoids that are unique to those strains. The 7 most common terpenes are myrcene, limonene, pinene, humulene, terpinolene, and linalool. They make up roughly 8 to 10% of the plant's trichomes, and they give the plant the unique smells and effects that they have. Let's list these terpenes from most energizing to most sedating. Humulene is very energizing, and it's one of the same terpenes that can be found in ginseng and is responsible for the kick that ginseng has. Limonene is also a very abundant terpenoid. It can be found in lemons, juniper, and also peppermint. A lot of the energizing effects that are associated with peppermint come from the limonene. Pinene is known for creating alertness. It's also good for memory retention. Pinene, like it sounds, can be found in pine needles, but also in sage. Now, caryophyllene, and there's a lot of them, alpha-caryophyllene, beta-caryophyllene, trans-caryophyllene, they can be found in pepper. And caryophyllene is known as being a mood booster or an elevator. Caryophyllene can also be found in cloves and in basil. Now, myrcene is sedating. It's not one of the most sedating, but it is one of the most common terpenoids that are found in the cannabis plant. It causes elevated moods, but also sedated, relaxed feelings. It can be found in mangoes, lemongrass, and thyme. Linalool is very sedating, and it's what makes lavender have the effects that it does. Linalool can also be found in rosewood. And finally, terpinolene. Terpinolene is one of the most sedating of the 7 most common terpenoids. And it's very relaxing, great for pain and inflammation, but it is highly sedating. And it can be found in lilacs, apples, and also in nutmeg. Each of these terpenes has a medical benefit or a list of medical benefits that are associated with it. But for the sake of time, let's just focus on one example, terpinolene. Terpinolene is a terpenoid that's commonly found in lilacs, and lilac oil is used to relieve anxiety or even treat insomnia. And strains that have high levels of terpinolene can be used to treat those very same symptoms. Like I said before, THC is going to have the same effect whether the strain is an indica or sativa dominant strain. The varying effects that you feel from strain to strain are a result of the terpene profile and the entourage effect. Let's explain. Velvet Glove is a heavy indica dominant strain. It is very sedating and has high levels of terpinolene. Now, the other primary terpenes in this strain are linalool, which is sedating, myrcene, which is sedating, caryophyllene, which is a mood booster, and limonene, which is stimulating. Limonene is known to have uplifting effects, but because of the other terpenes, the effects of it are muted. and perhaps might be the reason why the heavy indica effects of the other terpenes come on slowly, like putting on a velvet glove. And this is a prime example of why it's so important to have a full terpene profile and cannabinoid profile of each of the strains, so that the effects can be targeted to the symptoms that they're trying to treat. Imagine, if you will, a patient who has anxiety and insomnia and is using velvet glove to help them sleep. What's happening is this: the THC is triggering the CB1 receptors to release serotonin, using the endocannabinoid system to relieve the anxiety and to induce relaxation, help the patient to sleep. At the same time, the myrcene, the terpenoline, the linalool that are in the velvet glove, these are all doing the same things by stimulating the NMDA receptors, a whole other thing that we don't have time to get into. But in essence, what's happening is, if you picture the THC is trying to roll a car up a hill. That car is the anxiety and the insomnia. The THC is pushing that car up the hill by using the CB1 receptors to release serotonin and induce relaxation. At the same time, the myrcene and the terpene and the terpenoline are activating the other receptors by helping to pull the car up. Now, what's inducing the real levels of relaxation, more so than the THC, is the THC together with the terpenoids that are activating other receptors and other pathways to induce relaxation and relieve anxiety. In essence, what they're doing is flanking the problem, attacking it from different angles, and together they're providing a multitude of synergistic benefits. And that's really what they mean when they say botanical synergy. The whole plant does more than the isolated parts. A few final thoughts before we go. First, THC is THC, and what makes one strain sedating and another strain uplifting has a lot less to do with the THC percentage and a lot more to do with its terpenoid profile. Even if you've never done cannabis before in your life, your body still synthesizes endocannabinoids as needed. THC and CBD are phytocannabinoids, and they have an effect on the endocannabinoid system. The endocannabinoid system is made up of the endocannabinoid receptors, CB1 and CB2. Terpenoids have zero effect on the endocannabinoid system, with the exception of beta-caryophyllene, and the effect that it has is something like 0.001%. But while the terpenes may have no effect on the endocannabinoid system, they do work harmoniously with the endocannabinoids for an amplified effect. Understanding the terpene profiles of the different strains that are available is the best way to treat or target the specific symptoms that you're looking to treat. And finally, I really do prefer the term ensemble effect because I feel like the effect is a symphony. The cannabinoids would be the conductor and the terpenoids would be the orchestra, and together, collectively, they would make beautiful symphonies. The ensemble effect. Thanks for coming. That's all for today. See you next time. Oh, and feel free to ask questions or make suggestions. I'd be happy to answer any of the questions that you might have. Until next time, this is Josh with the High Class. Okay. Like and subscribe, and I'll continue giving you more of this content. Until next time. Now go get high.